Welcome to the May 15th meeting of the Weare Board of Selectmen. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're starting here. One of the things we did in non-public was just to review a list of proposed employees for Chase Park for the season. And Karen Stogden presented that, the Parks and Recs Director presented that to us. Is there anything that you would like to say about it before we move on it?
We're at full staff this year. So last season we were short a couple of lifeguards. This year we're at 4, which is, as far as we're concerned, full capacity for lifeguards, which is good news for the coming years. We have 3 new gate attendants, and that's about it. We have a bunch of returning folks, 9 I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Nice.
Normally, we don't list them all because they all have employment packs in hand, packs, whatever.
Rehire and employment packets, yeah.
But they haven't officially been rehired until we approve them, so I would move that we accept the list of park employees for 2017 as presented to the board.
Second.
Is there any question or discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Karen, if you could hold for just a second.
Oh,
I would like to move the approval of the MOU for the skateboard park up while that she's here.
Okay.
The school board and the Board of Selectmen have been in discussion over the skateboard park that's located on school property. However, it belongs to the town and it's under supervision of the Parks and Rec. And they were having some problems over there with various behavior issues sometimes. And so we had to work out a solution that allowed the school department to have a little extra authority, even though it's town property. If there are school people there, then they have the right to go out and tell somebody to leave or enforce the rules, just as if it were on school property or were school property. So that and a few other things, and so we've been working for 2-3 months, really, I think, 2 months at least, to come up with a memorandum of rules that would be good with the school and good with the town. It went to Parks and Rec on last Tuesday, and they were okay with the draft. And I gave copies to the board members last week. We had met as a group with the Weare School Board, and then I met individually, or myself, with the principal of the middle school and the upper elementary, who are both supervisors in that building, to kind of put the finishing touches on the draft, which then went, as I said, to Parks and Rec and then back to us tonight. So if we were to approve it tonight, then it would be passed on to the school board for their approval. Were there any questions by board members on this before we go ahead and have a vote on it? If you're good with it, would somebody make a motion?
I move we accept the memorandum of understanding between the town of Weare and the Weare School District for the skateboard park.
Is there a second? Okay, Karen, did you have any comment?
Nope, no changes.
No
We're,
changes.
yeah, we're satisfied with the way it is.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
your work
Karen.
on that too, Tom. I appreciate your help.
You're welcome.
All right, kiddos. Thanks a lot.
Yep. See you later,
See
Karen.
you next Monday.
Yep.
Okay, town building discussion.
Yeah, actually, Sherry and I had a conversation on Friday, and that's kind of why the item is on the agenda, because we talked about several different things. And I'll just ask Sherry, do you want to start?
Sure.
Sherry Burdick, 382 Deering Center Road. I'm here because I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the town hall. I'm concerned about Clinton Grove. 3 years ago, all the information was given to the selectmen on the doors, and that work came in at over $40,000, including the doors. And if you take the hardware out, it was $36,000. And now we're starting over again with almost $9,500 worth of doors. And on top of that, we've got to have somebody put them back in and put them back in right. And on top of that, before we even get to that point, I believe you may want to look at the sill work that was done. Because I don't know if that was done properly either, and I have not been under the building, but my guess is if the doors were done that poorly, and that was reported within a couple of months, within 2 months for sure of them being put in, I came to the town and told you that. I did not crawl underneath the building. I'd be happy to do that, because that left front door, when you're facing the building, that outside wall is actually moving. So it makes me think that they never screwed that plate down to the sill after they fixed it, would be my guess. So I'm happy to do that. If there's any selectmen that want to crawl under there, I'd be happy to go over. But I think we ought to check it before we put that out to bid, because I think you may want to look at it. If you know. So I think that we're probably looking, we may be looking at another $30,000 here when we get done if the sill work was done wrong. So that's number one. Number two is the spires and that roof. And I have made a couple phone calls. I have a company that may come down and take a look at that for us. And they may also look at the doors while they're here at the same time. So they won't have a spec in hand because we don't have one at this point. But if you remember correctly, Tom, I did a spec out and worked with Dr. Garvin on that, and you had a copy of that spec for the install of the all the doors.
Yeah, the primary thing on that, as I remember, was the design. Because he, if you remember, went upstairs and looked at the old doors.
We looked at the old door,
upstairs
right.
in order to get the molding to match and so forth. And he was reluctant to give us a specific material because materials change. Remember, we talked about the mahogany being different today because it wasn't mahogany from the Philippines, it was mahogany from Africa, it was a different wood and so forth. So, I do recall that, but I think that his, as I remember it, his drawings and things were more to have it, not to excuse the shoddiness of the doors that are on there, because I'm not trying to excuse that. I'm saying that his was more looking at it from the aesthetics of matching the building.
Right. Yeah, that's what we were aiming for to do it. But that wasn't the issue. The issue was that we had spec'd out hot redwood, and we ended up getting a very inferior door by doing MDF. And I've spoken to 3 contractors, and they've all said the same thing. They can't even imagine why we'd have bought MDF doors. And the other thing that was astounding them was that we paid over $4,000 a door. Could not believe it. They said that's the cheapest door you can put in, and it should have never been put in to begin with. So what I had said to you and to the board at that time was that we had spec'd out the redwood, and second choice would have been either mahogany, cypress, or teak. Something that was not much maintenance because, as you all know, people do not follow through. There's no timeline put in place. There's no management in that area at all. So we're trying to make it as foolproof as possible at the time, and MDF wasn't the way to go. So I don't want to repeat this. So I want to make sure that when we start the spire work in the town hall, on the roof over there, which I don't think's been done since the spires were put on, I think that if we put like a 20-ounce copper on that, we'll be guaranteed about 100 years. And if we use one of the woods that they use up for trim now that is not a wood product but a composite, that we probably will be long. AZAC or Trek or one of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. The other thing is we've done a lot of work at Clinton Grove with the bell tower being completely fixed. I just saw Tim Maskill the other day. I asked him if he would take a look at that and see what he would charge to go up and paint that bell tower. He said it's absolutely gonna need a lift that will get him up 40-plus feet. And I think it's too bad not to get it done, because it was painted 9 years ago now. I think in 2008.
Really?
I think it was 2008 they did it. So I think that, we ought to see if we can get that done this summer. The other thing is the windows have all been cleaned off, all the putty off of them. They've all been resealed good and new putty put on them and 2 coats of oil-based paint on them. Really think we ought to think about putting some storm windows on them to protect them from the weather, so we don't have to go back, because that's a real pricey thing. It's like $300-400 a window if you have it done. If they have to be redone again, it'll be probably about, well, right now, current price probably be about $400. So if we can put a decent storm window on there. The problem is that the pins that go into the windows where the blinds are hooked onto only give about a 1/2 inch spacing. It's not very much. So I was thinking that if you use that, one of those AZAC or one of those woods, you could put a frame around that and screw that in and then put your storm window onto that, so you wouldn't affect the window itself and you wouldn't affect the blinds having to get pulled off and the pins moved, and it would be all left original. It would just mean you'd have to put a subframe over the window and put your storm window under that. So with that said, and then not to throw salt in the wound, but the other issue we had when we did the new heating system, and that all having to be redone. I just think we've got to be a lot smarter about picking out vendors, a lot smarter, because I don't know what that price was. I don't know if you know, Tom, what the price of that was to reinstall the heating system. I don't know the price on that. But every joint in there leaked, 29 of them.
Yeah, I
So-
don't have it off the top of my head.
But that was another, what?
3,200.
I don't know what it was now. But anyway, it was a lot, it's a lot of money to keep redoing these projects. And I want to make sure when we get these doors put in that it's done right. I want the Clinton Grove Academy jacked up and done right. I don't want to keep fooling around. I spend hours researching and stuff and getting, we just did the interior of the stone building.
If
And,
you have somebody coming down, I would love to sit in on that.
Okay.
Because
fine,
I've been trying to come up with actually I have a list of items, but they're not written to spec because that's not my, it's not in my wheelhouse.
well,
But I have a list of things that would need to be done. But
Right.
to then sit down with a person who is competent to write specs and look at this list, it probably would ease it into the path of having it spec'd out properly.
yeah.
Especially for the buildings, what they are.
I can tell you that there's no mystery about putting a door in.
Well, that's why,
And if you have a competent builder, if you do the research and get the competent people in, you still gotta put a spec together for what you want done, and,
yeah, I could give you a copy of what I put together, but again, I know that it's not a professional spec, but it is a list basically of 10 steps that have to be done. And then I have a space for paint specifications, which I couldn't come up with because, what do we want for paint? How many coats of primer, how many top coats, whether it's 1 primer, 2 top coats, or
Probably.
vice versa. And then what kind we had, when we had a couple of our former board members who were more proficient in this area talked about the various grades of paint and.
well, you want premium, Benjamin Moore
Yeah,
premium put
but,
on. That's probably gonna hold up the best.
So, you can take a look at this.
Okay. Is that something I can keep?
Yes,
Tom?
sure. I made copies for the board. So that-
I'll definitely call you if they're coming down. I would say would be in the next week or so if they're coming. So, that's those items. I still, and I don't know if you're gonna present stuff on the highway garage tonight, but I do have items that I would like an answer to. So I don't know if you wanna go through the items that you have first, Naomi, because I don't wanna be duplicating stuff.
Yeah, and if we could just, you know, we have had a lot of questions come up. We've worked on finding answers to those questions as
Right.
far as the building. And, you know, I don't want to try to deny anybody the opportunity to even speak, but there's no need to rehash everything that's already been said.
That's right, I don't want to repeat anything. If Naomi's got answers, let's listen to what the answers are that she has. And then I'll ask some questions over that we don't have, to make sure that we keep working on them. All
Okay,
right?
yeah,
Are you all set with that, Naomi? I'll sit down here.
you can sit wherever you like.
All right.
I took the list of questions that I saw for the first time, and went and tried to get some answers to what I could. And we did meet basically with Bruce this morning. Jan was there, Tom was there. The other three knew about the meeting, but I either had to cancel it or that we couldn't all have 5 here. So, because it was kind of a short notice, didn't have time to post it. But anyway, we did our best. So, right now, the first question talks about radiant heat on the floor slab. It says, 1, how many zones are within the floor, and is it zoned to shut off different areas of the building as to have multiple zones? There's 5 zones, and yes, they are able to be shut off at different times. 2 is insulation under the slab, A and B. A was thickness, B was density, and C was the R value. The thickness is 2 inches thick, the density is high density, and the R value is R13. And going down the list, the vapor barrier evidently was answered. That's all it says there, it was answered. The R value of the roof, the sidewall insulation, I don't have, and Bruce told us that that spec hasn't come from the contractor yet, so I don't have that information. The cost to run the dehumidifier, or even what the dehumidifiers, it says fire. I don't have specs for that either. And the garage doors, hang on. The garage doors, evidently that was answered from what I understand here. And we learned today that it's not like your regular garage. You know, your garage doors goes up and over. This is going to go up and track the roof line. So there is not going to be this thing that they're going to run into when they back the trucks in. It's going to go up in the roof line, follow the roof line. I don't have the gauge of the doors for you because I don't have the specs on the doors. The tank, the type of tank for the waste oil, the question was metal or plastic, and it's a double wall steel tank. I think that was, the rest was just really conversation of talking to Benji and talking to the clerk of the works. So I answered some, but there is going to be, I know there's still a lot of questions, and I'm just going to go back to one that we got a little overboard, I think, last week about the clerk of the works and how much he's being paid. Is it 40 hours, 8 hours? I want to just remind everybody that the bill that we've paid to date since this whole thing started has been $2,800. So it's not like it's $28,000 or $100,000. And the anticipation, as stated to us today, was possibly maybe 2 hours a week or 3 hours a week, depends on what's going on. But it's not going to be there all the time. There is a general contractor that they have there every day overseeing everything. So when it comes time for an inspection or it comes time for something to be poured during a important part, that's when he would be there. It's not going to be all the time. So when we got carried away with $100,000 a year, it's not even remotely that. So I just wanted to clear that up for a conversation that we had this morning. You guys can chime in
I
anytime.
just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Because, on that point, because
Yeah.
there'll be a project manager
Right.
from Turnstone there all the time. And that will be the person who supervises the construction. The clerk of the works job is to come in and check to see that the specifications are being followed as far as thickness of the concrete or the the R factor of insulation and so forth, but not to supervise the ongoing work. So that's, he is in a come and go status, whereas the project manager is there all the time.
If you two were there, so I mean, this is really, I know it's old news for you guys, but it was new news for me, because I hadn't seen it. We are waiting, and they are both, the general contractor and the clerk of the works are willing to come in with the plans and have a discussion, but there's no I guess there's no need of coming in if we don't have everything together, is what I guess I took away from that, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I got some of the answers, but not all the answers.
Does this general contractor or project manager?
Jim, did you have anything from?
No.
Okay, the general contractor or the project manager that you just spoke about, has this person ever followed a project through from start to finish? Do you know that for a fact? I don't want you to shake your head yes and then find out, oh, he's only done A, B, and not C, D, E, and F.
Yeah, well, we can check that out for you. I can't shake my head yes, but I can say that, again, we go back to the beginning on this, and that we vetted these companies so that we would have a company that was very well respected. And so at some point, regardless of the things that we don't agree with here, there has to be some trust but verify.
You're right,
And
I know,
that's
that's
the
what
whole
I'm
point.
concerned
I
about.
mean, we hire a contractor that we can trust, but we have a clerk of the works to verify.
Well, then that's my other concern, is like I said, I just want to make sure what the qualifications was when you, I don't know, who did the interviewing for the clerk of the works? Who interviewed him?
Well, it's kind of an ongoing process, I guess you would say, either because he worked on the committee
I know he was there in the beginning, I didn't.
right from the beginning on all of the committees, so he's very familiar with the project, and he's a contractor, and Naomi, you could pick up on that as far as the process that was used.
Yeah, so what happened is, we, March 24th of 16, we posted here in the post office. I can't verify, I can't come up with anything on the website, but we also put it on the website, but where we've upgraded the website, I have no track record, so you can trust me or not trust me. But so we posted it there, and then we also sent it to the Union Leader, but it didn't go in the Union Leader until the 31st. But at that time, on the 21st, well, I'll go back. March 21st, Keith Lacasse forwarded to board members a email with a draft RFP for the Clerk of Works attached, which was a 4-page document that he's used several times in architectural bids for Clerk of the Works, which had what the project was, the schedule, the scope of services, qualifications, and the form of the proposal. Nobody replied. But it's not that nobody took specifications, because I sent it to, there's 1, 2, there was 4 people that emailed me looking, 3 people emailed me looking for the qualifications, which they got sent. The other one was the construction journal, and I'm not sure that she put it in or didn't put it in, because she reached out as well. Nobody replied. Then it was the end of April, the 22nd of April, when one of the gentlemen that didn't reply called and asked if we'd found somebody, and at the time I said no one had applied. He was urged to send his stuff in, which he did. At the time it was a resume and a couple of letters of work that he had done. No pricing, no anything, but it was 3 or 4 weeks after we had closed the request. From there, we had one gentleman, Eldon mentioned him last time, looked at the 4-page RFP that we had put out. Let me find his email for you. And he said He's not interested. Thank you for the opportunity to work for the town of Weare. The position is advertised hints of contract administration / design oversight / project manager / supervisor and code enforcement responsibilities. So basically, at that point, he said, no, thank you, I'm not doing it. So that's where we had nobody. And that's where, I mean, so my answer was that we didn't interview anybody of all these people because nobody brought anything to the table.
I think just to emphasize the RFP we put out didn't meet with a lot of enthusiasm by those people who.
No, because they all had indicated that, just like what I read you back from an email, that it's not a clerk of the works position. It was more of, it fitted in one of those 4 or 5 things.
Yeah, it was more a piece of project manager, piece of this, piece of that. And we discussed that way back then, over a year ago, as far as what it was that was put out, and it didn't match with clerk.
So, and we didn't interview Bruce. I mean, we went and had not anyone. Bruce had been there from the start, but we also were recommended that he was more than qualified. But,
Has he
I
ever
mean,
put a metal building up? Has he ever built metal buildings?
I'll let you ask that question. I don't know.
I've never built a building in my life. I built a metal building. I put up a 32 by 48 myself.
And,
Oh, we have you as his backup.
I don't want to build this one. I've done them.
but we never put that job back out to bid. I mean, that clerk of the work job never got
Not beyond that,
reposted.
you know.
No, not beyond what I just explained. no.
Okay, so March, and then we hired him when? October? September?
Oh, I didn't.
September 26th.
Okay.
All right. Is there gonna be a weekly report? Is he gonna do a weekly report if he's over there for 2 or 3 hours to say what he's covered, what he's seeing, what he's not seeing?
We haven't discussed that, but certainly can ask for that.
I think the chair, just when he was here, I think there was John asked the question about it would be nice to have status updates that we
Yeah.
could put up.
Yeah,
And I think he agreed to that while he was here.
Yeah. Could
Um,
you just be sure we include that in the minutes today?
If I may, I believe you also specified in there that you probably, if you could, you'd probably put those on the website for all
Yeah.
of you.
Sure.
Yeah. And I guess you mentioned, somebody did hear that Mr. Cahill had been asked to do it, but declined because of previous work obligations or whatever, something, right?
Yeah.
So, but nobody's gone back to ask if he was interested after the fact. If his work obligations had changed, nobody went back to speak to him.
I mean, I haven't even talked with him.
Is the clerk of the works, is he under a contract with us?
No.
No. And is he insured himself? So if we have a problem, is he insured?
No, he said that this morning.
Is that a problem for us? If he says something's okay and it's done and then we have a problem?
Well, I'm checking into it, sure.
Okay, okay. Okay, the other thing I did was, I actually called Hennica because the clerk of the work had said that there was a major moisture problem up there in Hennica, and that they were gonna put in, I think, 2 dehumidifiers in this new building. I believe that's what was said in April 10th meeting. But I actually called and talked with the person up there, and they told me that they're not having any moisture issues whatsoever in the area where it's got radiant floor heating. The only area they had a moisture problem with was in an area that was unheated.
Yeah, they have two, I don't think there's 2 bays, but then one end, the far end of the building.
Far end of the building,
away
they
from the
didn't put any
offices.
radiant floor heating in, and they had a moisture issue.
Really?
That's what he told me. So they put 2 of the Modine heaters in, and after they put the 2 heaters in, they had no moisture problems on that end of the building either.
Yeah.
It was,
So they
it was
did-
unheated, so,
They did have.
cold.
Because I toured the building, and it was near completion, and I know that their radiant heat left off before those final bays,
yeah.
and they had some type of overhead heaters.
Yeah, that's what they put in to take care of that.
On
But,
an as-need basis.
but he's saying no moisture issues at all up there.
Well, we'll double check it.
So I just spoke with him today. You can double check it.
Who did you speak to?
Tom, he's the boss up there.
Yeah, he's the road agent.
Okay, and the other thing I asked him about was the price, because this was a question I asked, the price to empty the tank when it gets full, the 5,000 gallon tank. And he gave me a price for what his is, and his is around, he has a double tank system. His tank is outdoors, not inside. And anyway, just doing a close calculation, it'll be within $10. It was gonna be, for us, it'll be about $4,250 to dump that tank, if it runs 5% contaminants. If it's more than that, it'll be more. If
Is that
it's
the
less
floor
than,
drain?
huh?
The floor drain?
Mm.
Okay.
The other question I asked, and I haven't heard, but was, this tank is underneath your cement slab, and is the radiant floor heating over that over that area where the tank is?
I told you I couldn't, I told you on the phone I
You
couldn't
answer that.
Right.
Well, we need to find out, because if something ever happened, it may never, but if there was a leak in that tank for whatever reason, you know, and you had radiant floor heating in there over that tank, you would have a problem. You'd have to cut all your radiant floor heating to get that tank. If it had to be replaced or repaired or whatever, you may have to, might be a problem. So I was just concerned why that got put underneath the floor in this building. But Henniker has, I just found out today, actually, that Henniker's 2 tanks are outside underneath the ground below frost line. So just a thought, you know, might save us some money down the road, don't know.
We did discuss that today, because one of my concerns was just simple weight. Because you have a tank and you're gonna bring a 10-wheeler loaded in on top of it, but the way that it's positioned
I think,
and the dimensions of the tank, that really wasn't gonna be an issue.
no.
But we did discuss that today, and I think that's a good thing to bring up for the discussion.
All right, and,
Because the one thing we did not talk about, which I think is a good point, is the breakage in the lines for the radiant heat if
PEX
something had to be addressed there. So
yeah, just a thought, I just wanna, you know, things that I've thought of. And the other thing was, the clerk of the work mentioned back in April that they were gonna put a whole year's supply of oil in that building for the whole year, which would, said that they would put the whole year's supply of oil in the building, which would be 2,500 gallons is what I've been told. So, I don't know what that tank is. I don't know if Ben knows what the tank is, but anyway, I just don't know if that's such a great thing to put 2,500 gallons of used oil in if you ever had a fire. Just a thought, I don't know. I mean, it could be put outside as long as the building had a, you know, was maintained above a certain degree, so it would flow in and.
yeah, and is the tank for the old building, because that's a waste oil furnace, is that tank outside or inside?
No, it's inside.
It is inside.
Every time we fill it from outside. The cold oil just fills the furnace. The more of the warm oil we have, the better.
But anyway, just a thought, you know, if you got 2,500 gallons stored inside, it's a lot of oil. And I know I did some research online, and I think it's the town of Plainfield, New Hampshire. They bought a stainless steel tank, and they put it in outside like a bunker deal where it's insulated and it feeds in. So
You
it's
only store so much, though.
yeah.
If you have a
So
line pumped into the furnace, there's really
yeah.
no limit to it. But when you're storing it, you're limited to what you can legally have.
Limited, you mean by code, as far as what can be inside?
DES, containment.
You brought up one other thing, we talked about it today, which was brought up last week, was the idea of somebody being on the mezzanine working on a hose machine, and is there a window? Yes, there's 2 windows upstairs in that hose area.
So hopefully you'll stick a ladder out there right for them, so they don't have to jump.
I'll go give them one when it's happening.
All right.
And again, just following up on that hose machine is not something that's used continually, it's just used occasionally when there's a need to repair a line, and attach the proper fittings. And the fittings will be screwed up there,
Right,
but,
yeah. But it's just a good thing. It's just a safety precaution. If somebody's up there for an hour working and you ended up with a problem, you want to be able to get out.
yeah, and again, that can be addressed. There is a window, we really don't expect to.
And there is a fire alarm system like there is here in all the other buildings, so when the wind blows and the power goes out, it calls me in 3 places, my cell phone here and home,
And my phone.
and Tom's phone, and usually the fire chief's phone, and anybody else that's on that call list. But that's gonna be put in there as well.
Well, you better make sure Ben has it too. I don't want him being lazy about not going over for the fire. Okay, the other thing is, I had asked the question because, again, the clerk of the work had said that it was double the R value. And we don't know what the R value is, so I don't know how we can state it's double, because nobody seems to know what the R value is, but I did a little work and found out that on a metal building, the IECC International Energy Code compliance is R13 is for the face fiberglass insulation bats installed perpendicular and compressed between the metal wall panels, and then R5.6, which is a second R value of continuous rigid insulation. So if we've got double that, we'll have about R40. We will be able to heat it with a candle.
Can of Sterno.
Maybe.
Okay, we're still on the issue of buildings. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to them tonight?
Couple of questions. Naomi, you have the list for the clerk of the works questions?
I have a copy of.
Okay, I'm the one that authored that.
Okay, that's all I was given.
All right, so we answered about the 5 zones within the radiant heat slab floor.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so the insulation under the slab, this is a rigid insulation. It's like styrofoam.
I got the thickness.
Thickness is 2 inch.
I have no idea what kind it is.
Okay, density, we need to know that. Because that's the compression strength versus
Okay.
a homeowner's car situation. Or you're putting a 60,000 GVW truck in this. So you might get, like in a regular garage, homeowner's garage, it'd be 15 to 25 pounds per square inch crush. But in a garage situation, it's 40 or 50 or 100, depends on
Okay.
what you put in there. Under the mechanics bay, it'd be even more, because if you have a floor jack and you have a 6x6 base on it, it's got to be able to withstand the compression force in a single area. So the density, just to say it's high density, it doesn't float. And the R value of the insulation, that particular insulation is R.7.2. So the underneath of that slab is going to be R14.2, not R13. R13, he might be talking about the sidewall. Did he mention anything about the R value of the roof or the sidewall insulation?
No, I said that we're waiting on that information.
Or what it was comprised of. Why would we have to wait for that? I'm just
It's coming.
real curious on that.
It's coming from the contractor.
Yeah, I know, it's been 3 weeks since I talked to him.
I only asked today. I mean, I was.
I'm not trying to shoot the messenger, I just,
Yep. Okay.
it's very frustrating that someone put this amount of time in the building and doesn't know the items. So, Sherry brought up the fact about the town of Hennecker humidity problem. It's not a problem.
We gotta just, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I definitely will check that out, because we talked about visiting a couple of other places, and they had radiant heat, and at least they did it in the Weare building. And there was no mention of a moisture problem. And so we'll definitely wanna check that out. Benji, you said something about another building that you were in with radiant heat, with radiant heat?
No, I think it's humid by nature in New England.
Oh, okay, well, that we can't help.
But,
You-
I did talk to Henniker guys, and
Carrying it.
in the winter time, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was, I guess, in their garage, in the radiant part. In the cold storage part, they did have problems, so they turned the heat on. But he actually said it was, best in there, just you could get a little bit of moisture to sweep the floors in the winter.
So my situation is this: how did that information about humidity get parlayed to our people, and we're putting in this $50,000 system? The garage doors, 3 weeks ago when I asked the clerk of the works the question if there's gonna be traditional overhead horizontal rail or semi-vertical, he told me it was gonna be traditional overhead rail. So I'm glad that it is semi-vertical, but why the change? And, you know, did he not know then, or just a lot of things he's just not answering. It's just, still today, all these, it's just simple. And what was the deal with the garage doors? Why don't we have information on garage doors or the hardware? Or,
Well, same answer I gave you before. I don't have any specs
I
from
don't
that.
think the bids were awarded.
that's impossible because the building's already
No,
bid upon.
the building is, but not a lot of the details are. I don't know who's doing the overhead
Well,
doors.
you heard of a thing called cost overrun? There's someone specified something somewhere. There's got to be an endpoint, Benji, right?
Well,
There's a GMP.
Yeah.
keep the remarks in your stuff, you okay?
Oh, well, both of us, all of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, you know, we did have a discussion this morning, and we need to have those spec sheets in front of us for your benefit, for our benefit. And, you know, what we talked about doing is having the project manager or somebody come in along with the clerk of the works and make a presentation to the board. So to start with, the board would have a chance to ask those questions, and then we can open it up to the public as well.
Will you open it up so we can come up
Yeah.
for that meeting?
So that,
Yes, of course. But it'll be right here on a meeting night.
Yeah,
And
so that was done this morning, that meeting?
Jan, myself, Naomi, Benji, and Bruce make this one. Yes.
So was Mr. Hippler invited? Was
Yep.
Mr. Meany?
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everybody?
Yeah.
And nobody could go, or?
Not when I'm in the middle of work, no. No, I'm at work.
Well, these two were working. John happened to be off today, but it
Well,
wasn't
was it time
posted.
of
But it wasn't
posting, or-
posted because I wasn't here Friday. So
Okay.
I said to John, "You could come, but we would have to cancel the meeting." And he and I talked about it, and he said, "Well, I'll just come in at 1:00 and get the information later."
Okay,
So
Because
he
we-
was invited. He can speak for himself.
because we talked about this last Monday, and you, after it got hot, you guys said you were gonna have a full board, what members could attend. That's.
I invited
What-
everybody, but it just timing.
No, I just, there's an implication, and I don't know if you mean it or not, but it's like I'm running around clandestinely doing secret meetings someplace because I'm in the building, and that's just not the case. The building, the meetings that I have had with Bruce have been, you know, casual encounters, except for the one time that he asked to speak to me on a Saturday before he came in and presented to the board as a courtesy. He wanted to speak to myself and Jack because we'd been on the original committee before he came in and made a presentation to the board. That's the only time. You know, for the most part, I'm in this building to do the agenda on Friday or sometimes Thursdays but, you know, not to sneak around and like make decisions that aren't part of the board's decision. It just doesn't happen. You know, it doesn't.
Did I say that?
There was an implication in the last couple of meetings. I think that was
Guilty
the
conscience.
case.
You saw Bruce today. Was there any mention of the firewall, auxiliary firewall proposal?
Not per se of the firewall.
No, I just think that the pricing was brought up as to $50,000 for the 3-hour wall.
Mm-hmm.
And
The one that's already there.
$20,000 for 1 hour wall.
Yeah.
I was assuming that the 1 hour wall was probably the one that was gonna go down the other end, but I don't know that.
Well,
So,
there isn't anyone going down.
They spoke about that
Well,
today?
the one that was suggested to go down the other end.
No,
You know, we can take individual suggestions from everybody here, but we're relying on the contractors and the architects to make those kinds of decisions. And so, yes, it was brought up, the price was taken out, but as far, you know, the $20,000 was mentioned. But as far as a discussion, should we add another wall, that really wasn't discussed in the sense of anything other than bringing up the fact that it was commented on here.
Well, that's what I'd asked the clerk of the works. So the wall, auxiliary wall is 20,000,
for a 1-hour rating.
okay? And was that a block wall, a dry wall, fire stop wall?
That's a 3-hour rated.
I thought they just said it was a 1-hour wall for the 20,000.
The one that's in there, that's in the proposal, the block wall was always there, at least 4
Right, I'm talking
feet.
about the auxiliary the one that I was proposing.
Right, it's $20,000, but it's a
Okay.
1-hour rated.
So $20,000 is gonna save you well over $1 million. That's at least 600,000 anyway.
And our replacement value is cash value. not-
Actual cash value, so
Yeah.
that puts us in a bad slump. That's why I said if the thing burns down, we're gonna get zipped for the trucks. And then the taxpayers are gonna have to buy a new fleet, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. But, yeah, I'm really lost in this clerk of the works at this point, because he couldn't answer these questions, having the time to do so. I'm not happy with it at all. And Tom, to answer a question last week, you asked me what I did for a job. Then you asked if I was a contractor. I replied no. But what I didn't tell you was I worked for a company that distributes commercial building products for 28 years. I have warehoused, delivered, sold, investigated job site issues, water intrusion situations on the following items: commercial doors, metal wood doors, commercial insulation, commercial rigid foam, spray foam, fiberglass, metal building studs, drywall, steel studs, fireproofing, fire resistive insulation. This is why I offered to help you out and met you over at the town hall for the doors, just to help you with what I knew with the Mass Road people. So, just a little idea, I do know something about some of this
Well,
stuff.
I wasn't trying to be insulting, it's just, I go back to the fact that we vetted a contractor that we trust, and that's where our primary source of planning is coming from. Not that you or anybody else doesn't have a right to put out an idea, but that, in fact, we have people who have built buildings in adjoining towns who are very well respected, and we're going on their recommendations for the building. You know, no need to prolong it, but that's where I was coming from in that case. We can all make recommendations, but we've got to fall back on the expertise that we're looking for. And again, I'm talking here, but we have 4 other board members. If anybody else wants to join in, just say, be quiet, Tom, I want to say this.
Ricky Brown brought up a good point last week about the building inspector. Do we have a reciprocity program? We have one, I believe we have in Goffstown in New Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our
I think we have one
man
in
working up in
I
Hillsborough.
think we have one in Hopkinton too.
Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Mr. Meany brought up the point last week where he said it'd be a form of double dipping for Mr. Meany to inspect his own work. Why couldn't we entail our own building inspector and seek the services of another community. Just eliminate the clerk of the works position.
So you're saying they have Chip Meany do the clerk of the works, is that what you're, and then we're gonna hire,
No, we're gonna have the other town.
they'll come over to fill in, but most of these reciprocity things, you're gonna end up having them come over to inspect every job that comes forth into that office. We may end up having to incur a bill from them because they're detracting from their own job.
How many hours do you think we'll have townspeople, or people from other towns?
Depends on how busy his building stuff is. I know that at
Yeah.
times I've talked to him and he's out there almost daily doing inspections of one kind or another.
Oh, I know Chip's busy, but.
Yeah, so to have somebody to fill
He's
his
gonna have
slot, to come in and do
over
it,
there.
you know, the gentleman that you spoke about said if we hire anybody for less than $120 for an hour, we're nuts to do the building,
For the clerk of the works.
for the clerk of the works.
That guy was hired for Henniker for $65 an hour.
I don't know. This is what he said in a meeting with us. Fact, not fiction. $120 an hour. If you get anybody less than that, then you're buying a pig in a poke. Except he did recommend the gentleman that we do have. He said he's more than capable to do the job that he's got. And he's giving you a good deal because he's a town
The
resident.
purpose of this.
So, I mean, you're gonna get, this is getting a far afield again, and it's a moot point, because right now, the other Mr. Meany said, no way, he's not gonna do it. And it is,
Well,
it's
who's his boss, Jack?
we can't step in and beat him over the head to tell him to do something.
Well, I'm not
For
saying that,
something
but
like that, but that's it. I mean, you want us to look out for the dollar. And I can tell you probably that the town of Hopkinton, if their building inspector, or the town of Henniker, if they're gonna come down here, number one, they're not gonna be down here in a timely fashion. They've got their own work to do. Now you're gonna pull them from their town where they're getting a salary, they're gonna do hours, and eventually they're gonna turn around and say, you know, we're gonna get some compensation. Reciprocity doesn't mean they do it for free.
And it doesn't mean that it's an ongoing thing, it's to cover an emergency.
An emergency.
If somebody's out sick or somebody, that's.
well, that was an idea because you just said it was going to be 2 to 3 hours a week for this clerk of the works, and I think that would fit perfectly into the program.
Could I just add something?
Are we incurring any bill from Hillsborough for the time Mr. Meany's been up there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
For when
I rest my case on that.
Are we incurring a bill? No, why would we incur a bill?
You just told me they'd pass on expense to us
No.
through.
If we have somebody from another town come in and do our work,
Yeah, you're saying it'll take away from us.
and it's gonna take away from us, and they may bill us for that,
Who?
the other town. Because it's one thing on a case-by-case basis.
Jack, I think you missed what I said. Hillsborough didn't charge us anything we didn't charge Hillsborough anything for us reciprocity for Hillsborough.
How many times did he go up there?
That I don't know.
Okay.
But
I
it's-
heard
you're
it somewhat
talking-
frequent.
You're talking, if he's gonna be involved doing this project for a period of time, we may have somebody down here, if he's got a lot of inspections to do, we may have somebody here. So, I mean, at this point, it's coulda, woulda, shoulda, maybe, it's a pie in the sky, because we don't know.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I
just saying,
the
think
thing
about
is- I think the thing is that he already said he doesn't want any part to do that.
Yeah, but
You would.
it's a different situation because it is a fill-in an emergency situation. You know, mutual aid, we don't charge, they don't charge, but
This is not mutual aid.
this is not mutual aid, but it's a reciprocity type of situation. But if we need to have an ambulance intercept because of an emergency situation and we need to provide services that we can't, then we're charged for those. But the whole thing with the building inspector, it's a courtesy thing, not a, we're gonna do your job for you. It's a courtesy thing among the towns so that if there's a situation whether Chip is out for 2 weeks and there has to be a job looked at, that we can call on one of our neighboring towns to send a person over and do that, and vice versa. It isn't to fill a gap that normally we would have to pay for.
I think, and I think Chip's gonna have to sign off on milestones like he does on a house. So Chip will be down there at some point signing off on inspection, just like he does on a home. Just like he did at the school. The school had a clerk of their works, and Chip still had to do the milestones there. And that's still gonna happen here. We're not gonna get rid of that.
But it's a different level. He's looking at code primarily.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
I'm gonna start talking over my head if I go any further with that, because that's not my area.
So Naomi, when can I expect a full report on
Whenever I
stuff
can
that
schedule a
answered?
meeting. There's gotta be a meeting scheduled, and we just explained that. There's going to be
discussed
a,
that last
Yeah, I
week.
realize that.
And
This-
it's the same question getting answered. When they can get, we've asked them, when we get the meeting set with them, that everybody can be here at the same time. It'll be a public meeting, it will be on the website, it will be posted, and it will be done. But asking these questions over and over again.
I'm not asking over and over, Jack.
Yes, you just asked about these
Listen,
again.
listen.
This is the third time, and it's getting
I'm just trying to
old.
get you guys to follow through with what
And
you
we
said
are
last Monday.
trying.
You are trying, but it didn't
But-
happen this morning.
No, it was a meeting that was there, they called this
There's a
morning.
selectman lives in town, that
And
could have been there.
And I was working, and they
But
called
because
me
we weren't
off a
posted-
job. So, and they called him out of a job. So, are we supposed to drop everything and come running all the way?
No, I
Okay.
respect that, totally.
So, no, so the thing is this was an impromptu meeting. We are going to schedule a full meeting that you can be there and everybody else, again, that you can ask these questions instead of beating a dead horse. Because that's what you're doing right now.
It's not a dead horse, it's
Well,
a
it is to the
messed
point
up
where we
issue.
can't answer it, and you ask the same questions, and it's getting to the point where it's getting a little bit too much.
He took the
Wait
job,
until
Jack.
the meeting comes. I mean, you sit here and you're taking pot shots at us, well, when are you
I'm
gonna
not
do?
taking pot shots.
Tim, you've already made
It's
some
it's
comments.
kind of like, yeah,
So, the thing of it is, this is
get your
getting
facts
too far.
straight, Jack.
When you say to the chairman, you got a guilty conscience, that's a pot shot, and I don't care what book that comes out.
All right, time out.
So, I think that's
Okay.
it.
If you have anything else.
Jan is gonna ask me a
specific
question.
news,
No, I was gonna give some information that, had been asked about last week, about how many hours. Just to give an idea, I did call Henniker, and it was 145 hours
Total.
total, and the total bill was $9,400, and he charged $65 an hour.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes,
Who was that? And Henniker that paid
Kevin.
65 an hour?
Kevin Cahill.
Oh, Kevin Cahill? He
Yes.
only charged 65 an hour?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And he knows what's going on. My concern too is with the tank under the slab.
Okay, have we
If it's a metal
have we already
tank.
addressed that?
Yeah,
And we'll look into the placement of it?
should be moved outside. And was a question asked about the drain grate?
there's
going
gonna be
from one
stops
side
put
to
in
the
them.
other?
There's gonna be stops put in them. That's what we talked about this
That
morning.
holds liquid or?
The tank's here, it goes this way, so you
No,
can
no,
put a
I'm
stop
talking
in
about-
here.
The mechanics bay,
Right, you just didn't let me
Drain.
finish. So, you got the drain down to the tank in here in the garage. Stop's gonna be here, right at the wall, so
Underneath
that
the
when
wall.
it comes down from the mechanics bay, it gets stopped right here. It's not gonna run all the way down to the tank. That's what I was
The other
told.
thing that we talked about, and not that, is that we're dealing primarily with diesel, which is a different, rather than gasoline.
low
Which-
flash
not
point,
that-
high flash
Not that
point.
we don't want, not that we want diesel to get into the tank, but it is very different flammability compared to a gasoline. And we talked about that this morning, and by putting a stop in there, then if there is a spill in the mechanics area, it won't go into the drain, but it can be cleaned up with speedy dry or whatever before it gets there.
So there's a tank T, I'm understanding, underneath the firewall.
There will
It's in the
be,
mechanics bay.
there will be, it's not one now.
Oh, so there wasn't before?
What
I
do
mean,
I don't know.
we talked about we talked about it today, and actually Benji's the one who said he wanted to put stops in.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm bringing back to you today, we're gonna put stops in.
Okay.
We are addressing these, Tim. It's just, we may not have the answers from that for you, but guardrail between the addressing, and we'll continue to do so.
All right, and I got one final say, it's not a pot shot, Tom, but last Monday, a resident, Dick Butt, was talking public comment to Mr. Meany, and it was about the contractors coming to the board with options, and Jack was telling what he knew, and he told Dick Butt, well, there are options. And you just like stopped him in his tracks, and you know, you just took over. So I disagree with that. And Jack slumps over in his chair like a 15-year-old but just been scolded. And it's like,
You feel that way?
you watch on TV. I think
what it
you.
is
I
is
didn't
I'm
think.
get- No, what it is that I'm getting to the point where some of this going back and forth is getting tiring. You know, we've all had a long day, and the thing is to keep going on and on. Right now, it's a moot point till we get the contractor in and we go over the whole thing with the contractor, with the clerk.
I'm not talking about a different issue with how the board is run, Jack.
Jack, did I?
So my situation is
No,
this.
I didn't feel like a 15-year-old beating up.
Well, you
a kid.
looked like it. You like.
Well, maybe it's because
mid-sentence,
I've
he
been
stopped
going
you.
since 4 o'clock in the morning.
But
too.
you'll stop Jan. You'll stop John.
To the point, it's just.
It's just I think you intimidate them, so they don't speak.
I don't think so. I really feel sorry if I hurt your feelings last week.
Yeah.
I'm not bashful.
Yuck it up, guys.
No, I hope everybody here, and a lot of times I will go around, do you have anything to add, John? Do you have anything to add, Jim? And if you don't feel that it's open in that way, then I call upon you to say, hey.
I'm talking about the times you quell it, though, Tom. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Richard Brown,
Yeah, this is-
37 George Moody Road. I got a good question. I went home last week and I read the town report about this building. Said it was gonna be all set with fire suppression and everything. And now all of a sudden things have changed and we don't have it at all. What are we gonna do? I mean,
Well, I think we walked through that last week, in that the dollars of the match. And there are differences of opinion, I understand that, and again.
why was it written that way?
Was that the minutes?
What's that?
Was it the minutes? What part of the book were you reading?
It was in for the new town garage. It said it was approved and everything. The town voted the 1.3 for the
Okay.
thing.
That wasn't part of the article, that was part of the discussion at deliberative session. And that was the intention. You know, that was the intention from day one, that was the intention, exactly what you're saying. The article called for a flat amount of 1.36, I believe it was, for the building. And it was a design-build project. And design-build project, you get what you can afford.
Right. Well, why didn't you cut the size of the building down so you can have the fire suppression? Okay, you gotta take some and give some to get a decent building. Instead of going and just have something that's just gonna go poof.
Well, again, I understand what you're saying, but that was not the direction we went in.
It's almost like false advertising, if you ask me. The people voted for this thing. They're supposed to have fire suppression for them trucks. And now you're telling the people that we don't have it.
Again, it's part of the discussion that we had last week, and there's no new answer this week.
It's up to you guys. You guys are writing the, I read the article you wrote.
And that was written at a time when that was the plan. it's the same as what you read in the town report. You know, I was writing based on what was the plan at that time, and it was in 2016, February, I think, 2016, that article was written, and the plan was to have a 11,200 square foot building that included fire suppression. But it went out as a design-build project because the previous year, 2015, we had an article for some money for plans, and that was defeated. And so our alternative was to put it all together. And so the architectural fees were all rolled in to the project. And again, there probably are other people who can address this better than me, because I'm talking in general, because that phase I wasn't involved in. But they worked for 6 or 8 months sharpening their pencils to see what would fit in there. They started out, I figure I heard this morning, was that, well, that's gonna cost us 1.8 million. And then, okay, what are we gonna do to get that down to the amount that was paid for by the voters? And so, Danley, you may be able to,
But it's a lot like, it's just like the police cruisers. We vote on the police cruisers and they come back in, we gotta pay $5,000 more because they're not equipped. When we put a bid out, it's for everything, not just part of it. And then come back and say, okay, what are we gonna do now? We can't get it all. You know, if you did this building, if you cut it down in size, phased it with fire suppression, you would have been a lot better off, instead of trying to go for a big Taj Mahal.
well, we have different opinions, and we
Mine
don't differ
counts.
in the fact that we would have liked to see the thing go the way that we had originally planned.
But the voters voted on that.
The article that was, you can check the article itself. It's a pot of money for a building. It doesn't have those details in the article.
Come on.
Tom, it says it. I mean, that's what, everybody read it. I guess this is the same answer everybody gets. No.
Eldon Towns, Huntington Hill. So we've got a future meeting coming up with the general contractor and, you know, the board and such. For that meeting, can we communicate, or, you know, somebody communicate with them that, you know, we would like to have some information on a cost, I guess, comparison to, let's say, infrared radiant heat to the traditional radiant heat that you're putting in, to see if there's some savings there on that. And maybe to help, you know, you get rid of the $50,000 humidifier. See where that puts us, if it's any closer to putting the fire suppression back in the building. And do we own the structure now? Was that ordered? And we own that now? The structure itself, the frame?
The structure has been ordered.
Okay. I don't have any experience putting up a steel building, but was there any thought into, you know, now that we own the building, the structure itself, I imagine a steel building goes up in sections and the end doesn't know exactly where it's gonna have to be. Can we take 4 bays or whatever, shrink that up, save that structure for a future build to add on, and put in a fire suppression? You know?
Those are questions you'd have to ask the contractor.
Right, can we like present that to
But
them so
usually
when they
we-
show up to the meeting that
I don't
they
think
can be
we own the building,
prepared?
we've ordered it, I don't think we own it until we pay for it, and I don't believe it's been paid for yet.
So can we like
It's on order, that's it, so.
backstep and shrink this thing down? Is that something we can present to them?
I gotta be honest with you.
With that?
In the discussion, I would not be in favor of that. I mean, I'm just being straight with you.
Okay, why is that?
Because I believe that the plan for the building in the size that it's in, personal opinion,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not speaking for the board, I'm
Oh.
speaking as one member of the board, should go ahead. The plans are in place for it, and we should follow through with those plans. To look at, do we need a humidifier, dehumidifier? Could we save money by putting the tank outside instead of under the floor?
That's all.
All of those
matter.
things, I think, are reasonable, but to change the structure of the building now, I don't think that that would be a reasonable request. And when we have a meeting that involves a contractor, I think that it should be open for questions, but contained and respectful. We're not,
Like,
tear
it,
them apart. Just
it's not like tearing it apart, but you're saving, let's say, maybe it's only 2 bays, the 2 end bays, save it for a future add-on or something. Maybe that's all it takes to just put in the fire suppression. Like, that's my main upsetting point about the whole thing is we just, we don't have the fire suppression. You guys understand that.
I'm upset about it too. I think everybody here.
I just think it would be nice to, before we do own that, it's a lot of money to just throw up and then, whoops, we had a fire and we get cash value for trucks and we're stuck with that bill. And
It seems like we have a start that is now saying you don't need a dehumidifier, which I agreed with from the beginning.
Yeah,
I've been
we
in
don't
buildings
need
with- I've been in buildings with floor radiant floor heat, and you don't need one. I mean, I've never seen one that has, except in a commercial application like an arena where they don't have floor
Right.
drain.
right.
And the moisture just stays there. So, if that's something we can say, definitely, we'll look at different costs.
yeah.
But the thing is, now's not the time. You gotta ask the contractor, and then we're gonna ask the same question.
I'm just hoping that like,
But I think,
before that
and I
meeting,
see what you're saying
we're
about taking
wasting
a
time
building.
there asking them the same
and
questions I am
storing it.
now because they didn't have time to think
Where are
about
we
it.
gonna store the extra panels in the other part of the garage? I mean, that stuff is not real thick steel. It's tin, and if you don't have the right place to store it, you're gonna trash it, and then we're gonna be out
I
doubly.
understand that.
So, I think that's, but
I
the
understand
questions,
that.
gotta ask the contractor. and-
I'm bringing this up so that it can be brought up to them before the meeting. Like, hey, let's think
Yeah.
about this.
Well, I mean.
That's how
we've
it
gotta
goes.
I mean, the thing is we will bring these questions to them, and if
That's
we
what I
don't
want.
get them all, which we sometimes
I'm not
may
looking
miss,
for an answer tonight. I
we
want
can get
this
these-
brought up to
get these
them.
questions and.
So at our next meeting, it's not, well, we don't have time to talk about it because we don't have the time to look into it. I'm
Well,
bringing it
I
to
mean,
them,
the other thing
now
is
so
that
that it can be brought up.
If you have an email, email some of these questions, they go on to Naomi, to the town, so.
You can
we
write them
get
down right now.
Well, I mean, any other ones that come along.
Yes,
So
obviously.
we'll do this, so the minute we get them in here, they'll have a draft of these questions that they can go through.
I just would like to see some thought into trying to put the suppression back in. That's
We all
real
would.
annoying that it was kind of, well, we're sticking with the footprint we got. We're gonna add some humidifiers to take care of a problem that
I don't know.
can be
whether
resolved with something else.
I don't even know where the humidifiers came from, because until it was brought here, it was never even heard of, that I heard of it.
That's why the
It was
process
in the
is so
April 10th
frustrating.
meeting when
Then I wasn't here for that,
the
probably.
Works did the presentation.
Yeah, I wasn't
That's
here.
when I heard it.
Yeah, I wasn't here, I didn't come in till late in the meeting, I was working, so. So that was news to me till I heard it the other night.
But that's, for that meeting, I'd like to see, them present, well, the infrared's gonna cost this much per square foot to put in versus the radiant's gonna be this much per square foot to put in.
Right.
It might blow your mind how much different it is. And if it still doesn't get us there, well then, we save that kind of money and have that good heat. The infrared radiant's pretty nice to work on.
You know what the heat loss is gonna be with it, so how much energy you're gonna waste, using that
The
as
same
opposed
as
to
the
other-
radiant when you open the door, but I'll tell you, the radiant will not recover as quick as infrared.
I'm just saying, do you know what the heat loss is? That's one of the other questions, not just because of what you think it is. It's good, you also
You
gotta
know
get
what
the
the
heat
energy
losses.
consumption on that dehumidifier would be?
We're not even talking about the dehumidifier. Tim and it's his turn. So that's the questions. The other questions we get asked, what's the heat loss for this? You know, it may have a quick
The
recovery, but
same
what's
as
the
every
loss?
time you open the
I'd
door,
like to
though.
have somebody that does the HVAC that does that, and they can give you that, and that's the questions to ask them.
Well, then let's ask them.
And exactly right.
Let's ask them that. But I'll tell you from experience, I live in it every night, my garage, it does not heat up as quick as a force hot air or anything else, because you gotta let the floor heat the air back up. And when that floor gets snow on it, it cools back off. You gotta heat that concrete back up to get the air temperature to come back up. And the radiant heat temperature, the water temperature going through that is a lot less than, let's say, your normal baseboard in a house. Baseboard's 160. Radiant heat's 120. That's where you save on your energy, you know, for your radiant heat. You don't have to heat it up that hot. But on the other side of it, it does not recover your air temp in the living space as fast. When you open up a garage door, the heat leaves and it takes a long time for it to come back and make it comfortable. But I would like to see for that meeting we have with the general contractor, just a cost comparison on, it doesn't even have to be infrared, just something that's of commercial size, that will suit the waste oil that Benji would like to use, on that. And I'm kind of disappointed that, you know, we can't really try and fit in the fire suppression with trying to shrink the building down, seeing as we don't own it yet from what we've been told. Thanks.
Just one thing, what I would like to do is, anybody else who has any comments on the building, to do it now, so when we go to public comment, we don't have the same thing all over again. So Frank, if yours is on the building, go ahead, but I would like to close off on the building discussion and not go back to it in public comment.
Well, I appreciate you extending the agenda item into public comment.
No, that's why we have it as a separate agenda item, when we
Okay.
talked about that, so that, you know.
Fine.
But all I'm saying is, if somebody has something in public comment, let's make it different from this, because a lot has already been said. I don't know how many more
Well,
times we've got to go over the same thing.
the last two speakers stole my thunder a little bit. With this meeting you had with the folks today, was there any discussion about trying to get fire suppression back in the building?
The only thing we discussed on that is just brought up the cost of the dehumidifier and location of the tank under the building. I don't know if there's anything else specific to that, but, you know, is there any savings that could be put toward it? But we, you know, to look for $180,000 is a little difficult.
Because my thought sitting there, even before the two speakers got up, is that I didn't hear anything about the fire suppression being mentioned today, as you indicated. And you certainly heard quite a bit over the last couple of meetings about the concern of eliminating fire suppression. Again, you heard tonight, again, that that's the way the building was presented to the public. Granted, it was not in the article, but it was certainly out there in the public and to everyone in the public. It was going to have fire suppression. So I would have kind of thought that, you know, meeting with these folks today, maybe it could have been suggested to them, well, we've had a lot of feedback from the public.
We really didn't meet with the contractors today, Frank. We didn't meet with the contractors today.
Oh, I thought the contractor was one of them.
We didn't.
Okay.
Clerk of the Works.
Clerk of the Works.
And the people.
Well, maybe when the time comes, that they may hear from the public, but maybe if they hear from the board, if the board has the intention to, you know, pose the question to them, that you've heard, legitimate concerns about the fire suppression, and what can you do as a contractor? What can you do to get fire suppression in?
Right, and then
So-
we have heard that, and there are ideas of new ones that came up tonight that we can
Okay.
go back and discuss,
Okay.
the dehumidifiers, the
Yeah.
tank, the alternative heat.
Yeah, I've heard all that tonight
Yeah,
and previous.
we've
I
heard
get
that, and we
that.
can, we can ask those questions, but we also, whatever changes are made, they have to be pretty quick, because old buildings, I don't know, is it all down, or partly down, and,
Almost.
yeah, and
Okay.
the next step is the groundwork, and then you're starting pouring concrete, and that's
No,
where
I get,
decision-
I'm trying not to delay this for you. You're delaying it yourself. So
No.
I thought it was gonna be pretty quick up
I'm just saying, that's
here.
why if there's gonna be a change in something that affects the pouring of concrete, like radiant heat, then we have to make sure that that change is made promptly. And I'm not suggesting that it will be. I'm just saying that we can't delay anymore on the talk,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's a done deal.
Okay. Well, I mean, maybe you don't have to wait to see that. Maybe the word could get out to the, maybe even 2 weeks ago. The word could have gotten out to the contractor about fire suppression, getting work back in. It would have been an extra couple of weeks for them to think about it. Because it's not, as a taxpayer, I know the option is out there, it's been mentioned, that, well, it can be put in at a later time. Well, we already heard once that it was supposed to have it in there, and now we're gonna, here again, we gotta do it at a later time. That's it.
I have two quick comments on the building, and I'll be respectful and quick. Is there a way that we can go out to them and say, what is the cost to build as it sits today, so that they're prepared to bring that to us? They have a computer system. If they're a reputable company, they have a computer system that can do that. You should also be able to go to them and say, what is it going to take so that we can get the suppression system in? What are we going to lose? Because again, they have a computer system that can do that for you, and it may show everybody it's not doable. There is no way that we can do this, so just to get it off the table. But at least if you go to them and say, what is it like today? People want this. What has to leave? And it might be half the building, which is not doable. So if you go to them and give them enough time before they come here, and they know what they're up against, I think it would be helpful for all. You're going to save a lot of time and frustration.
Yes. Thank you.
Lori Davis, I chaired the committee. Steve Roberts and I were the two people that did the presentation. And everybody that was involved with this project, 2 of them are sitting on the Board of Selectmen, were very much aware that we did the research, and it said that we had to have a suppression system. That's why it has not passed in the past. And we sold it on that suppression system. So for anybody to say it wasn't in the warrant article, therefore it's not important, by whatever changes caused this not to have a suppression system, the design we came up with fit everything in the building and could handle a suppression system. I realize the delays in sending things out caused a problem in cost, but automatically it should have been, what do we have to do to get the suppression system in here? That should have been #1 priority, and that should be, even now, with the number of people who have been up here talking about it, the number of residents that aren't here but are running around the town. I really am concerned that the Board of Selectmen is not realizing that you are never going to get another shot at another building with the residents in this town.
Amen.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I don't know if this is an option or not an option, and I really like probably Ben to speak to it, but I don't know if there's another way to keep the building, which would save a lot of money versus putting the radiant floor heating in. if it would be something that would be, you know, something that would be compatible, something that you could use, that would be a lot less money than the radiant floor. And if you could save 75, 80,000 that way, and you don't have to have the dehumidifiers in place, we might be really close to the fire suppression. Just a thought, I don't know.
Mention that. Where to start? I come in after this was all voted in, highway garage was approved. It was approved as design build. Anyone that doesn't know what that means, not being sarcastic, you voted for a certain amount of money and somebody else to design and build it. If you wanted a certain number of doors, certain type of heating, we should have voted for design, put that design out. We didn't. The taxpayers voted after 10 years of getting voted down. I was here 12 years ago when we voted. We put out an 80 by 240 building for $960,000 and it got voted down. With the recycling center in it. So this is how the new group tried to get it in, and it worked. It got in. Whether it's because it was a design build, whether it was because the voters are ready, whether how it was sold, it got voted in. But it got voted in as a design build, which means there was no set of plans. The first set of plans that we worked on was 2 doors, 1 in, 1 out, angle parking, all the offices, locker rooms, the whole 19 yards. It came in so over budget that we couldn't do it. The only way to get everything in was to go with more doors, double stack the trucks, reduce the footprint. It still come in too high. So it came down to how do we get all the trucks inside? And it was either cut 2 bays off, put 4 trucks outside, or fire suppression. And the question was asked to me, and I spoke up and wanted my trucks inside. So you can beat up on me, that's fine. It takes 45 minutes to load all my salt sand trucks when I call a crew in. If it's a nor'easter, that isn't a big deal. We all watch TV, we know nor'easter's coming in. If it's a freezing rainstorm, that's a big deal. Time I get a truck to Mountain Road at 5:30 in the morning, school buses are supposed to run, that's a big deal. So if I can have all the trucks parked inside, I make the phone call, everybody gets out. My public safety's an hour ahead of time. The fire suppression, I keep hearing safety, safety, safety. I couldn't agree with you more. Listen, I'd rather have all my trucks in, angle parking, with the fire suppression, you know, big screen TVs. I'd like to have all that, but nobody, you know, we can't have the Taj Mahal. But to back up a minute. So it takes 45 minutes to load all the trucks. They're in the public safety factors there. So for the safety of the fire suppression, for getting us out, I think of fire suppression getting someone out of their home when they're sleeping at night, or off the 4th floor of a hospital when when there's a fire. If there's a fire and we're inside that highway garage, we know the truck's on fire. If we can't get it out the fire extinguisher that we have, we're going to leave. The buildings that did burn down at night. And so as far as the safety factor goes, I don't think it's that great. As far as the trucks burning up and losing everything, I couldn't agree more to that. I've asked a lot of questions about the fire suppression. Water isn't the answer. That wouldn't work. We'd have to have dry cans. As far as I know, that was never discussed. I don't know a price on that.
It was brought up early on, because I brought that up when I was.
Or aqueous foam.
Sure, which is way above my head.
It's more expensive than putting in that's more expensive than putting
So we certainly wanted to have it. The original question was asked to me. I'm the one that voiced I'd rather have the trucks inside. Our clerk of the works, I feel confident in him. I keep hearing Kevin Cahill's name come up. He refused it. I asked, before we even considered Bruce, I asked a guy that I know that does it in Massachusetts. His price was over $200 an hour, and he wanted no part of working for the town of Weare. So, and he's aware of it. So, I think Bruce is a competent man. As far as the questions that can't be answered, I don't know. It's not my forte. I can't believe that he didn't know. I think that he doesn't want to say something that he could be caught on later without the numbers wrote down in front of him. We've really worked hard on this. I think that we've drawn something like 13 different plans up of this building to come to where we are. And we certainly haven't tried to shorthand anybody, be sneaky about anything. And it's unfortunate that we couldn't get every single thing we want. But here, time and time again, we don't need the Taj Mahal, so we're not getting the Taj Mahal. We're getting a building that holds the trucks that we own today. And that's what we're getting. And we worked very hard to get that point.
In lieu of safety.
No, you look at it that way.
Well, you never put all your eggs in one basket.
I can't think of a scenario. I've worked in highway garages, this one, most of my career, for almost 17 years, and I've never seen an instance where our safety was in danger. I can appreciate the fact that they burn up in the middle of the night. If there's fire suppression, put that out, that wouldn't happen, but it would have to be completely different than the one that was originally designed, that was okay by everybody. 20,000 gallon cistern, which now I learned wouldn't put the fire out, just get you out of the building. So I chose to put all my trucks in the garage so that the public safety was out. I'm the one that deals with phone calls when someone, I got 2 kids that ride school bus. When that bus slides off the road, I'm not happy. And if it's on one of my roads, I'm damn sure not happy. If I can have that truck loaded so that I can make the phone call and they get their butts in the seats and they get out on the road and they're an hour ahead of the game.
So you tore down the pole barn too?
Not yet. So to give a recap what we have done, the garage is coming down. All the roofing except 2 panels. And they're caulked on around the vent pipes and stuff. And then near the electrical wire, we left them. They're gonna go in the demo box. But that $35,000 roof that we put on, every piece and every screw, hopefully, we got, have been saved.
No, I'm talking about the one.
No, I understand.
The lean-to shed.
Right, no, I'll get to
where
it.
you park your trucks in.
Yep. No, so we saved all the roof and all the doors, the waste oil furnace, everything out of the garage, things that we probably never will use, in case we need them some other day. The lean-tos that trucks are parked under, half of them need to come down immediately, the other half don't. Whether I leave them up or I tear them down. I would like to relocate to the transfer station because we do not have enough room to store recyclables. And we need more space to store recyclables. It'd be nice to relocate and park my bulldozer, my vibratory roller, my tag trailer, my excavator. They don't need to be parked undercover, but if we have the roofing and we have a pole barn material, why not do it? So half of them are going to be tore down, the other half are not immediately. But I plan on saving all that. They're 1x12s nailed by 2x4s, and you take them off in 8-foot sections, and I plan on saving. I saved everything out of the old highway garage. People even criticize me on how much I saved. But I want to build more storage at the transfer station, and I don't know what we can build off the new highway department. And it's supposed to be expandable, that, you know, we're going to be able to in the future, not that it'll ever happen.
Wouldn't it make more sense to put it up at the pit?
Which one?
Right over here at East Street?
No, because my problem with that is our fuel pumps and our salt sheds at where it's at.
Yeah. Everybody could drive there anyway. So, I mean, if you would've left the old garage here, what I'm saying is, if you would've left the old garage here, you could have your storage, you could have your place for you could have done your recyclables and stuff down there and built that place up there. It would've been more visible in case it caught on fire. Down there, if it catches on fire, it's gonna be too late anyway, so.
That's true.
No
I'd rather have my highway garage
It
or
was
my
for
salt
athletic
shed and
fields
my
and conservation,
fuel
but
pumps
don't
on
say
it.
it,
Very
it'd be
big
into
habit.
it.
Well, I
I'd
mean,
argue that all day.
at some point, you could change it, you put your salt shed and stuff up there.
Good.
I mean,
That,
it's no different than us. I mean, when I hop my dump truck, I mean,
No, but you don't respond in, you don't respond in snowstorms.
Here, there, doesn't matter.
I suppose, we could argue that all night, I guess. I don't wanna do it that way. But I would like to take the heat for making the decision, putting the trucks in instead of fire suppression. That was my decision, I had everybody else go along with it.
Well, these new trucks is what, that, I ain't worried about the old ones, the new one, with the exhaust. Ford has a thing, when the thing goes into regen, you put a plastic barrel.
Oh, absolutely, but we don't regen inside. Absolutely, I got a Volvo that burns off 1,200 degrees, it's got a bird cage over it, see, and you can't park under trees and all that business.
Right.
Absolutely. And the new ones are all coming out the urea and they burn much cooler. But they still burn hot.
Yeah.
So you feel comfortable? As
Yeah.
much as you can?
Yeah, as much as I can.
Is there any
I'm not happy about not having everything.
Right, nobody would.
But we had to make a compromise. And when we voted on 1.36 million. Some of us, I think a lot of us that are complaining didn't vote for it at all, but I don't know. We made the, so why is he even angry about it?
Benji, is
Because I own it,
is there a,
it's on my
a
tax
benefit?
bill.
Is there a tangible
theirs too.
benefit for you that would justify the cost of keeping the radiant floor versus going with a modine heat or anything?
I have
like
no
that?
idea about the heat.
Okay, was
I
it something
have
that
no
was spec'd in
experience
before?
about it. People seem to prefer it. And all we did was take, and I think come from the original garage committee, all they did was take the preferences from everyone else.
Okay, but there was no other reason other than that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
That was a Tim thing?
No, I think that was just an overall committee
I
thing.
think, yeah, I think that was.
Everybody
brought
that
up
has
early
it
on.
seems to like it. The only problem I did hear was you wanna sweep the floor regularly because it will bake the salt on. That's the one thing that I heard about it.
And I will say, from
and-
having it
but
at Caterpillar in the warehouse, it is a slow recovery time.
But you still have to have heat is the one point I wanna put
Yep.
through. You get rid of the radiant floor, but you're not getting rid of the whole cost of radiant floor, you put some other source of heat.
No, but I mean, if it, I don't know what the cost of that would be,
No,
but,
and I don't either.
but I'm just wondering if, some modine heaters hanging from the ceiling, granted, it's gonna be a hell of a lot louder, but.
As long as it's waste oil, I've been pushing the waste oil because it's for free.
Yep.
And long-term Weare is gonna benefit from free oil. We do our own, we get all of it at the transfer station. And how much oil is gonna burn, I have no idea. I know that we can't burn all the oil we get now, so hopefully it burns more than what we do now. 'Cause we can't get rid of it all.
Not if it's as well insulated as you know it is.
No, I think it'll be above code. So, I don't know if I helped or hindered any, but I wanna come together as a town and a group. The building's ordered, but doesn't mean nobody's ideas doesn't matter. We could argue all day who prefers this kind of heat or this kind of heat, and what color it ought to be, and how many windows there ought to be. There's always gonna be differences over it.
But if you get the cost to construct, I'm sorry, if you get the
Yep.
cost to construct, that's public,
Yep.
you're gonna show transparency.
Sure,
And that is going to go
sure.
a long way.
I agree, I agree.
And I don't think all the bids are back. I don't know, that's the thing with the design build, that company kinda has the reins on it, and that's why we picked Turnstone too, by the way, so 4 people bid on this. One didn't wanna do design build, they wanted us to pay for the design, that's not what the public voted for. So they got thrown out. One was way up here, and then we had Coniston and Turnstone. I believe Turnstone was just $1 higher, but they were willing to work with us. We asked the other company, where we have weekly, monthly, bi-weekly meetings. They said, you're hiring us to build it. We want you to get out of the way, we'll build it. Turnstone said, of course, we'll have as many meetings as you want to have. Talk all you want. So we chose Turnstone. And we've had bi-weekly meetings as a group of employees by the town of Weare, drawing up pictures and, blueprints, no, this isn't gonna work, or this is too much, and I don't think any other company has done that, that's why we wrote with Turnstone. And I think when all the bids are in, they will do that. Their GMP is just a skosh under what was voted on, so we know we're not gonna spend more than 1.358 or something. So, but no, I agree, we can, we get all the bids in, we can show a breakdown detail, I would think. And we've sent it out to every taxpayer, every business that is a taxpayer in town, we've tried to include. 3 dirt guys from town have bid on it, 1 got it. I think a plumber in town bid on it, I don't know if they got it or not, I think an overhead door guy in town bid on it.
Bid for the dirt.
They sent it out, Rick. I don't know what.
I never received anything.
I know, 3 different people from town come and looked at the site, but, see, that's the thing, they got hired to do it, so they send it out. Town of Weare did. We asked that they incorporate all the town people. So, a local plumber bid, I don't know if they got it, a local overhead person got it, I bid on it, I don't know if they got it. 3 dirt guys showed up to my shop looking at it. So we've tried to include taxpayers in this.
Okay, can we close the discussion on the town building and move on with the agenda? Next thing on the agenda is approval of minutes of our last meeting, May 8th. I didn't have anything on page 1, page 2, anybody on either of those pages? Page 3, anything?
No.
Any changes? 4?
Page 1,
Page 1.
her.
Where?
Chief Kelly just notified her, oh, yeah, on this right here. Yes. Okay. All right. 2?
No.
3?
Nope.
4?
Was brought up on the second line, on the second, first line of the second paragraph.
Asked if anything that was talked about last week was brought. Anything else on that page?
Okay, so the package that we saw today that, the clerk of the works has, is coming before the board and has not been given to the board, is that what that is? Is that,
The GMP?
yeah. That was a question.
Not a change in the minutes.
No. Change right here, there were no minutes for the,
No, not, okay.
Page.
Page 4, about 2/3 of the way down, we just changed the word not to no. You have anything there, Rick?
No.
Page 5,
okay, in the section of what I said, and I know you don't go verbatim, but I really think that the
okay,
things,
you're on
yeah.
6.
Yeah,
She looked
looked
at.
at.
I got that one.
okay.
And up here, people are here, like, sort of,
Let's see, partway down here, it says it was noted that having their initial meeting this week. Having
they will be having the initial meeting this week. You wanna change it
having
to
their
today?
initial meeting this week. Okay, I have to see where my arrows are going here. That the committee met, let's see, on September 26, 2016, it was noted that the contractor and garage committee met this morning at 10 a.m. Also, a non-public was held to discuss the clerk of the works.
Was that part of the minutes?
No, I'm adding that because that was what I said at the meeting.
Oh, you did say that in the meeting?
Yes, I did.
So after 10 a.m.?
Yes. also a non-public was held to discuss the clerk of the works. And then from October 2016, this kind of runs in together. It's on October 3rd, the administrator's report stated selectmen met in non-public to discuss the DPW garage. And then resident Bruce Fillmore, who was a member, I just took it out of what was actually in the report, and it's what I read at the meeting. And he will stay on as the project, stay on the project as the clerk of the works, as the town's rep. And then it said the cost will be forthcoming.
What date was that? What date was that?
October 3rd.
Okay.
But,
It's a second,
yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to disagree with you, I just
No, I
that,
you want
is
me to
that-
write it up?
well, we can just give them both to Naomi. It's just that I don't know if that was part of the minutes to begin with. I mean,
No, it wasn't, but I'm adding it because that's what I said. And I know you don't do everything verbatim, but I did make a report using the minutes.
okay.
Okay.
And we'll just
And I
give
would
her
like
a-
it in there.
Okay.
All right.
And where would that go, Jan?
She spoke on page 6.
On October 3rd, because see where it says from October
Yeah.
to April?
Mhm.
It's actually on October 3rd, on the administrative report. It's actually all there. And then what I said was from October to April, the cost never came forward of what the clerk of the works was charging.
So you're saying that should be in the minutes because it was something that you read in?
Yes. Yep.
So if I could do that.
All right, and that's a problem.
All right, and on the last page, I just had a first line, the board felt that a request, I just had included should be made to the chairmans, just make that chairman. Okay, of the noise ordinance committee and the fire range committee, so just change the wording there a little bit, not the sense of it. All right, if you're confused when you revise these, Naomi, you put it on.
Drop back 5 and
Blame
punch.
it on me.
Okay, any administrators report?
You gonna
make a motion?
Minutes?
I was gonna say yes. I move to approve the minutes of May 8th as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
I abstain.
You gotta do a manifest before you get to me anyway.
All right, manifest.
It's a good one anyway.
Have to excuse me, I'm doing this and my phone is buzzing in my pocket at
Oh.
the same time.
So you're preoccupied.
Okay, move to order the treasurer to sign payroll and accounts payable checks dated May 18th, 2017, as included in the following manifests. Payroll of $43,353.33, which is payroll for the week ending 5/11/17, and an accounts payable manifest for $33,957.30, which equals $77,310.63. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Actually,
Mm,
Any opposed?
I had
He's got a
on that.
discussion.
Oh, okay.
I had discussion on that. The, there was an invoice in there, in the accounts payable for the, electrical work that was done at one of the town-owned properties.
Yep.
One of the town deeded properties. Was that put out for bid? Did that follow the policy for the amount?
That was not. I think it started out, and it's a nightmare when they get into it. The one contractor had started it. I wasn't here.
Okay.
He started working on it, and then there was a lot of shortcuts in the building that needed to be fixed. So I'm not sure exactly. I mean, Chip was in charge with him because I wasn't here.
Okay, could you What project are we talking about?
Down where the highway department is now, on North Stark Highway, there was a lot of things that was removed in the building, and a lot of things were shortcut. So when things needed to be hooked back up, and all I can tell you, it was much more wrong with it than we had thought. So I'm just, and I know what you're saying, I just don't know, I was not here. But I know they asked him to go down and do some electrical work, and then the bill was, I don't remember what the bill was, but I know it was over the $2,500.
Well over 2,500. So I just want to make sure that policy is followed.
Just to clarify, as a temporary garage site to work on the trucks, we are using the building on Route 114, which was previously Next Generation Auto, because the town owns that now. And so in order to have a garage to bring the trucks in and work on them while this construction project is going on, we're using that building temporarily. So the electrical in it apparently was way out of code, so what started out as a small project ended up as a big one. And had to be brought up to code before we bring people into work on the vehicles there. So that's what the project is we're talking about. I didn't know beforehand, but I know what the project is, but I didn't know what was associated with this electrical expense.
Right, and I'm not doubting the work that was done or the work that was needed.
It's a very
but
local contractor, well respected, that the town usually uses.
right, I just want to make sure we follow that policy.
Started out turning the lights on. It really did.
I was gonna say he can help, I wasn't.
I know this probably doesn't, it really was as simple as calling Eversource and unbooting the meter. And then it was like, the lights to, the wiring to the lights, well, let's fix that. Well then, remember I gotta bring a welder and air compressor, I can do that. None of that, we didn't know that all this stuff needed been done, to make up a big package, send out the bid. Of course we would have. It was just kind of like, can you make sure the sewer pump has power today? Because the plumber's there, and he did. And then I'm bringing the air compressor down today, can you hook it up? And he did. It was that type of thing. I think so much happened in one week, it kind of snowballed the bill, which was kind of accidental, I guess, but it wasn't a big project that we knew of. It was a very kind of neglected down there.
Well, I don't doubt that.
Okay, are we good with that vote?
Yep.
Was it 5?
Yeah.
Okay. I crossed it off. All right, here's your tax warrant, all fixed and tidied up. Pass it down for you to sign it.
One signature on the front.
Is there 2 pages or 1 page? Yeah, only one. It's once. And then Karen Stogner gave me 2 of these capital reserve requests. The first one is for $625 for the installation of a urinal on the left side of the bathroom at Chase Park. Out of the Chase Park repair and maintenance. The second one is the same fund, but she filled out 2 of them, is to paint the ceilings in the bathroom at Chase Park, which was for $600. Both of them were less than 1,000, so there was no quotes. So if you want to make a motion per se, we can sign those.
Can't make it as one.
You can do what you want.
Okay. I move to approve the amounts of $625 for installation of a urinal in the bathroom and $600 for painting of the ceilings in the bathroom at Chase Park, for a total of $1,225. Come from the Chase Park Repair and Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Use the new ones.
Yeah, Karen used those forms, I didn't, but ignore the former members on the board. that are on that sheet.
I'll sign my line.
I really don't have anything more on the administrator report because I wasn't here majority last week after Tuesday. So I'll plead the fifth and go from there.
I have a preliminary draft, the one that I gave Sherry. I just wanted to share with the board on what needs to be done for the installation of the doors. It has to be looked over and refined by someone who knows how to draw up the specs, but this is basically a work list of what would have to be done in order to install them. So just for your information, and then again, I don't claim to have it as a perfect document, but only as a working document. I have it on my computer, so Sherry has mine, so I'll give it.
And what are you looking for, the board or someone for input, or is that what the
Well,
thought is?
input is fine, but basically I just wanted you to know I was working on it.
Okay.
And if Sherry, you have the expertise that you're bringing over, we'll see if we can define that.
As I know.
That's all I have. Is there anything on a different topic for public comment?
Yes.
Okay,
Now,
yes.
I'm glad Benji's here.
I did take a ride up the road, by the way.
I did.
So we're talking about Bow Road.
I did Friday night.
Yep, that's fun.
It's fun. It's fun and exciting times. It's always an adventure. So when I was here last week, I asked about when it would be paved. Initially, I was told that we were on the plan for this year. Then, yeah, it must have been an error or something. I'm not sure, but that's what I was told. So then we were found out that we were not going to be paved this year, and that a part of Mountain Road would be, but not the whole section. I'm guessing now that the signs are up, that it will be in between those signs. That's the section, which is the worst part of that road. The problem is that Boat Road is probably just as bad or pretty darn close to it. And when I had called one day last week, it may have been Thursday or Friday, to speak with you, Mary had reached out and had called me back and said that it wasn't going to be on this year and that you were getting ready to do the 3 to 5 year plan for roads, and you weren't sure where that was going to fit on that, which I can, understand that, but your trucks go off every year. Cars go off every year. We've had a couple of bike accidents because of it. I don't think we can wait another 5 years. So I don't know what I have to do as a resident and on that road. If I have to get petitions, how do I get our road moved up? So there are a couple of you that went out for the great adventure, and if you did it at night, I'm glad that you're here today.
I did it at night with the ambulance, so.
You were in the ambulance?
I was in the ambulance, yeah.
Well, my husband had to take 2 or 3 rides in the ambulance, and it was absolutely terrible. And it didn't matter. One time they went one way, and the next time he went the other way, and it really didn't matter. It's pretty
I did the whole
poor.
loop.
So, again, I don't know if there's anything I can do, but I'm willing to do, if it's a petition, I have no idea, but it needs to be done. It's getting to the point that it's actually dangerous, in my opinion. I don't know if you can say the same, but your trucks go off quite a bit.
I don't mean to speak for Benji, but when it says a 5 year plan, doesn't necessarily that mean that road is 5 years out. It means he's gotta map out the next 5 years and see where the priorities lie.
But those could change. So what roads are on this year other than that section of Mountain Road? Because I could have been misinformation once again, but I was told when Bow Road was on, then it came off, but then they put River Road, which has been paved numerous times since I've lived here. It just keeps getting repaved and it looks fine, where we get, again, I forget what it's called, but you put the yeah, and doesn't get tamped down right, and it just flies everywhere, and then 2 weeks later, we're in the same position. So it's not, you're spending valuable time not getting results. And then you get a lot of people on Boat Road ticked off. And quite honestly, probably at you, and it doesn't have to be at you, but that's where it goes. So what do I have to do? That's all I'm looking for. Is there anything I can do to get it on this year? You had mentioned last week that there was more funds coming in from the Fed.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to bring up tonight, because I was getting ahead of myself. Because this is Senate Bill 38 was to add $30 million to block grants for the state, which would have increased, it said like 85% for a town. And the House did pass that. However, it now has, because of their rules, now has to go to the Finance Committee, which originally had a work schedules session for May 11th and another one on May 16th. So it isn't finalized. I was hoping from what I read before that it was, but it was my error. It hasn't been finalized because it still has to go through the House Finance Committee. If you happen to know anybody on the House Finance Committee.
Like a resident.
Is it House bill or
like a
Senate bill?
resident, yeah.
House bill, Senate bill.
Yes, he is. He chairs it.
Chairs.
But that's tomorrow. They're meeting at 10 a.m. in room 209. But that's, you know, I'm not sending you out to beat the bushes, but I just, that it is a way to get more money, and to make sure that that really comes to be.
But if that doesn't
It's
pass,
close. It's close. But
what
again,
do I do?
I'm not-
And even if that does pass, there's
I'm not
nothing
promising
to say.
anything.
Right, right. So what do I have to do?
Have a camping party. Get the coal patch up there and invite the whole neighborhood.
I am not kidding. I mean, it is bad. So
It's bad,
I
I
need
know.
to do whatever I need to
That whole
do.
thing, I just did my trip odometer on it, and if you take the whole thing, including the loop, it's 1.2 miles, I believe. And so you're talking $220,000 to do if it's ground down and starts from scratch.
I've lived there 20 years and it has never been done. Show me another road that is that bad, that's waited 20 years. And that was in my complaint, is I challenge you. I challenge you to give me another road that's like mine, that's lasted as long as it has.
Pine Hill's closed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can it be ground down and graded?
I
We
honestly,
can't leave it dirt, though.
and that was
We
my,
can't leave it dirt, though.
that was my other
Just
question.
I'd be happy, if you'd be happy, I'd be happy, but you'd probably get 10 neighbors who wouldn't be happy about that. We tried that with Mount Dearborn Road.
But at least they get grading. We
I
get,
couldn't agree with you
you
more.
know, I mean,
couldn't
we
agree with
get
you more about
nothing.
that. And I get people that complain about dirt roads want them paved, I try to explain that. You get a pothole, I'd send my grader right out. They don't.
Yeah, we tried that with Lufkin Road too.
We tried that with Lufkin, it worked about 8 years, and we
It
just got
didn't,
crucified
people
for it.
on the road were not. I bought a house on a paved road and now I'm on a dirt road, how come?
It's
You
bad.
wouldn't know mine was paved.
It is
Really?
bad. I get the same complaints. I got a complaint. I got 5. I don't know if there was a meeting up there last weekend. I got
Yeah.
5 last Tuesday about Mountain Road. And
Because that wasn't, it is,
that was bad.
that's
It
gonna be
was
dangerous as
life
well.
threatening and everything. And just I got so much money. I wish I could do them all.
So,
I haven't drawn up a 3 to 5 year. I think 5 years almost unrealistic to stick to the pin because a garbage truck or a gravel truck or a plow truck could fall through. And
we're gonna have a sinkhole at that bridge. It's going to happen.
yeah,
When-
something's gonna have to be done with that. Yeah.
So,
But,
I mean, now it's
I mean,
not
I can only
just
do
not
half
paved.
of Mountain, and I did get the footage, but it's real close to a mile of reservoir, which is a main corridor. Mountain's a main corridor. River Road, I did 5,800 feet, which is a main corridor.
So why do we do sections? Why?
That's all it came. And they were so bad, those were the worst sections. That's where I concentrated most of my coal patch, was that piece of River Road. So I'll take River Road, for instance. We reconstructed that roughly 15 years ago. It's got Mount William crush under it. We know it's got a good base. The top was starting to go to pot. So instead of waiting to get so bad we had to reclaim it, I chose to overlay it. Hopefully it saved another 15
Benji, I hate to interrupt you, but I really should have you come up so that all your viewing audience out there can hear what you have to
So
say.
that was River Road. Reservoir is terrible from one end to the other. I did the section that's got the worst potholes because coal patch is $125 a ton and they paved it for 60.
So it's not even worth putting it down.
So it isn't, but you're right. But that's all we can do is just patch the holes when the road reconstruction money is gone. I can't argue with anybody that thinks the road's bad, and everybody thinks that their road is the most important, just I only have so much, and I try to make everybody, hopefully Mountain Road, those of you that drive down it will be happy with the mile that I do this year.
So what happens if you
And
do
there's
this?
less traffic on those subdivisions, which
That's not gonna
kinda
happen.
gives the excuse to do Mountain Road before we do Bogue Road. Ed Lane isn't
Yeah.
too far from being as bad as Bogue. Bogue's bad, I ain't gonna argue with you about that.
So why can't we put, and maybe this is beyond road reconstruction, but on Mountain Road, there are no ditches, which obviously create issues
Mhm.
with the water runoff. We have stone walls falling off now
Mhm.
going into the road. Do we have to look at the infrastructure of our town, not just repaving these roads, but do we need ditches? Do we need
Oh,
more
it'll have
culverts?
ditches, and we ditched it last time we
Okay.
paved Mountain Road. We ditch every road before we rebuild it.
That's one of the
You'll
things
see the
that-
excavator up there probably next week. The only reason it hasn't moved is I'm waiting to tear down the highway garage, and I was waiting to get my signs up. You'll probably see the reclaimer up there in a week,
Okay.
and you'll see gravel all summer. I'm sure I get plans about that. We leave it gravel all summer so you get the maximum compaction. We do our ditching. We ditched that, second year I worked here.
How many years ago was that about? Did it jig on?
15, or John, you worked for the highway then.
Yeah.
'Cause you did the shoulders up there when-
Early 2000s.
You did the shoulders of the dresser when we was up there. You were the operator. So, and we did every road, we ditched every road up there, cause I flagged. I probably back then could tell you where the dock was, I stood there and Gary Thompson's our excavator operator. And we did Bogue Road, we did Ed Lane, we did Mountain Road, we did Cram Road. I don't know if we did Lord Lane, but, we did Bartlett Drive.
So there's nothing I can do.
I don't know, as far as,
What's on for next year?
I haven't got the plan made out. I'm at the end of this plan and I know I'm under the gun to do that
Okay,
plan. See what we get for the money, if we get the state money. There's been talks about bonding a couple major roads, which would change the effect of where we put the road reconstruction for other roads. If we don't get any state money, we could bond something for like River and the rest of Reservoir, and then we could take road reconstruction, maybe go to some subdivisions. We tried to do some, we did Deer Haven last year, and I will say that was probably the roughest one in town, and then yours is the next in Pine Hill. We tried to distribute it, but when you got a road, there's River Road's 9.5 miles, and Reservoir's 2, 3, 4 miles, and Mountain Road's 3 miles, it's tough to get to the side roads.
But we can't always be last.
No, you can't.
I think to answer your question, what you've already done is what you can do,
This year,
making us
my paving is
aware
all
of it.
done this year except Mountain Road. We did Reservoir, River, and we top coated the roads with base last year. So people that wonder why we paved twice in a row, that's a process. You put base pavement one year, and then you put the top coat the next year. So that's why you saw us on Mount William Pond and Deer Haven again this year, is because we put base last year. And then next, we're gonna just base Mountain Road this year. Next year, we're gonna base the second half, and I'll see where my funds are if we back up and top the whole thing, and we top it the third year. Because we have Lowell Road, you take it right out of Lowell.
Yeah,
Now,
Lowell
Lowell's
is-
pretty close to like
Lowell's
Bogue
bad,
Road,
yep.
so.
Yep, it is.
I sympathize with everyone. This money isn't there.
Ben, can I just speak to that just quickly? If,
Yeah, up here though, okay, I really have been kind of lax on.
I haven't been up, I haven't ridden up, but maybe I'll do that tomorrow. But what I was thinking was if they're gonna have all the construction equipment up there, right close to Bog Road, would it be possible to put the coal patch up there and bring a roller up and roll that right up and see if it would hold it for the year? I'm asking a question, I don't know anything about it, just a thought.
So when we patch, we put it in, we roll it with the truck tires. And I know a lot of people think we don't, we do. When they drive by, I get tons of complaints on River Road that we don't roll. We do, but what happens is they take it, they throw it out of the truck in the hole and get residual around it. So the patch that's in the hole is rolled in the hole. You've got little residual pieces. Then they call tires, pick it up, goes in the fender wells, they think that we didn't know what we did. But the first rainstorm, it comes up. And we've had nothing but rain all year. And
That's why it's,
the
nothing against you, but that is not, that's a very short Band-Aid.
It absolutely is, and it's an expensive one.
Right.
I don't have my sheet with me, but I've more than spent my cold patch line this year. I don't know if I've doubled it or close. And,
So you don't
it's just
think
the
if
only
you-
Band-Aid we got. So I talked about hot box there last year, someday maybe, but I found out they're not 10 grand, they're 30 grand for one of them things, so. We do our best, but they are Band-Aids.
So if the money comes in from this extra, if it all gets approved and whatever, you can do bonding or whatever, how do I as a resident know about all this? Because it doesn't come here every time something happens. So what is the best way for me to stay on top of this so that I don't go another 2 years? If it's not done this year, it really needs to be done next year.
Well, again, your voice has been heard, it's in the minutes, there's really nothing more we can do now, and you know, I'm certainly not gonna make commitments on state money that we don't even know about, or even if it does come in, it's goes back to Benji's department, and he's gonna have to prioritize, and,
So
make
should I
decisions.
call you, not to be a harassment, should I call you to stay on top of that? I don't know where to go, I'm just asking,
Yeah,
where
well,
do I go?
No, I think he's well aware of the issue.
I don't live very far from you.
I would like to do all of the mountain, but I just don't know if I can, you know.
No, I get it, I mean, it's time
And
and
that's
money,
not a
but-
road that you can just overlay. We don't grind that and grade it and put gravel, you're wasting money.
on both.
If we could just do a top coat like we did on every road, it'd be beautiful, but you might as well throw the money away, because all the defects reflect through.
And we're fixing your trucks because you have to tow them out and they're sit there for days and you're not using
Yeah,
the
we lost two
resources.
up there. No, I hear you.
So,
That's these subdivisions that were built in the late 70s, no regulations, and we're paying for them today.
okay,
What if you ask the people in the subdivision to sign a petition if they would like the road ground while they have the equipment up there?
and leave it that way?
I don't have a problem with
Everyone
grinding it, but I
accepted it.
wanna hear it's okay from everybody.
Okay.
If they put the
Because
calcium
get a lot of
fluoride
people-
Maybe
to dust
no,
down,
maybe just me, but,
I wanna see everybody saying okay.
okay.
have put calcium chloride, keep the dust down, and
Well,
see if everybody can agree to it.
I'll talk to them, I'll see what they do. Yeah, I have no, I just don't know if I'm supposed to come here or if I'm supposed to go to you. I just want to follow the
you know, basically,
rule of command.
coming here is to have your voice heard, but it really is up to that man to set his priorities. We're not gonna say, Benji, we're gonna set the priorities for the roads this
Okay.
year, because, you know, he's the one who has the expertise and who knows all the roads and has to set the priorities. I don't think it'd be appropriate for us to get involved politically in making that decision,
Okay,
you know.
so can I work with you to get pros and cons of doing that so that I'm not going out to somebody uneducated? Thank you.
Hey, Ben, you gonna get campers left still?
What's that?
Hand campers?
Yeah, but I think the one time squish them in the hole better.
There's no, I was walking the other day, they weren't camping it down. It just makes a bunch of little turtle shell things in the road. The camp in be much better.
Lori Davis?
Before you speak, could I just ask Benji a question? Will you be getting your, like for next year, will you be working on that around the time of the CIP? Is that what
Supposed to
usually?
be.
Okay, so that's what,
Not to make
That's like
excuses, I've
August,
been between, the last 2 weeks I've taken down, moved out, not me, my crew,
yeah.
moved out of a garage that we've been in for over 40 years,
Mhm.
taken it completely apart, and all of my
I
paving
remember when it
except
went up.
Mountain Road. My road, I was the second guy to get paved in the state this year by our contract.
Yeah.
I mean, so I haven't had time to take care of that.
No, I
I
understand
forgot
that,
to
but
take a breath once or twice.
you usually meet with CIP around September-ish.
Yeah.
That would kind of
August.
give her an idea.
I'm
That-
supposed to come
okay.
out with a 5-year plan, I just haven't. I hope to by the
Yeah.
time that I'm supposed to, but I
Yeah,
can't promise.
But the
that
presentation.
was all I was
Yeah,
trying
the
to get
presentation
a
to
time.
CIP is usually for either a like amount or some small increase, like for
Didn't
years
use
we
my
were at
paper yet.
450,000, which included the state money, and a couple of years ago, we increased that to
Don't you be looking like a
480,000.
15-year-old.
We kind of wanted to keep it under the $500,000 mark,
I
because
don't want it voted no.
yeah, that's right, exactly.
We really ought to have a couple million a year to keep up, and I know nobody wants to pay their taxes. I think that's what Goffstown gets, we got close to the same roads we got money. Every town's the same, but not enough money to do what we need to do with the roads we deteriorate.
The town and the state,
Yeah.
you know, the state highways are not in good shape,
Yeah.
other than the throughways. Yes.
Sorry.
I read the minutes last week, I got them, and I had a long talk with Jan last week. I was very angry and upset.
At the minutes,
What I saw that happened last week's meeting. The first thing I want to address is minutes for the noise ordinance. We did have a meeting, you should have minutes. The reason you don't have them is the next morning my mother was dying and I flew to Illinois to take care of my mother and watch her die. So I have had several comments that there was a comment about me not getting the minutes here on time, and I want to make sure everybody understands. We are volunteers, and I will get minutes to you. You will have them by Wednesday, but I resent that. Number 2, I was chairman of the highway garage, and the discussion came up about the ever wonderful world of minutes. I asked everybody on that committee to take minutes. I had nobody that volunteered to take minutes, and while I will chair a committee, I am not the secretary for that committee. You were at every meeting. Most of the people there were not at most meetings. We had a group of 4 that were there. Tim looked into it, spoke to Naomi, said we were a committee that was appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and said we did not need to take minutes. Maureen confirmed that with Naomi, and Maureen had a conversation with you the other day to confirm that. So at no time was anybody, including my Board of Selectmen representative, ever changing that. Nobody ever said this had to be changed. So just like the committee that has been appointed, doing whatever they do with the clerk of the works, considers them an appointed group and was done by the Board of Selectmen, that was how it was explained to me when the minutes came up and we started battling about that.
you sure
So-
you don't mean it was not appointed?
Right.
Because these.
What
that
did
committee
Maureen
was not
tell you?
appointed by the-
That it was an advisory committee.
Yeah, because the committee really wasn't appointed by the selectmen.
So therefore, she was under the impression, she checked with Naomi, Tim and Naomi talked. I'm not sure how that all got set up, so I'm not putting blame, but I want to make it very, very clear, do not throw me under the bus for that. And I resent that people did not do their homework to find out the facts first, especially considering 2 of them were on the committee and didn't want to do minutes either. Thank you.
I can answer that. I get town council sent me back a response, and the volunteer committee, as Lori spoke, if it was not appointed or authorized by the town, there is no minutes. There's no 91A violation. Second thing I asked was about the meeting that we've talked about with the clerk of the works, the DPW director, the contractor, and myself. And it says, because you are not appointed and because you are not considering an issue to provide the board with advice or recommendation regarding public policy or legislation, I'm not, there's no public meetings, they're not a public meeting which requires minutes. So I think what Lori was saying was kind of the same thing, because as I recall, Tim was at wit's end, as I've said this, I think, to Sherry. Tim was at wit's end because it'd been 4 years it didn't get passed. So I think it was Helene he probably reached out to as to see if she and others would help. And by doing that, we didn't officially appoint anybody in as any advisory committee. Nobody, there was no appointments made, therefore, it's really not a committee. And the same thing with our meetings that we've been having. We're not a committee, we weren't appointed, and we're not, so there is no minute violation that it was talked about. So I guess that's what you were meaning, that there was no minutes, because they weren't considered meetings. That's what is purplayed to me.
And it really, the attendance was very inconsistent at those planning meetings. You're right, we had a core group, and then other people would come in and not be there, and come in and not be there.
You had a couple that showed up, I think, once and then didn't come back for a long time. One gentleman only came to one meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disposition of the, put that to bed.
Noise ordinance, you'll see it Wednesday. The committee met, it was John, I cannot pronounce your last name.
Van.
I don't have one.
Greg McDowell and myself, and it was a vote of Greg and I to not have a noise ordinance, and John thought we should have one, but we voted to disband and not have a noise ordinance. So it's back in your laps.
So it's back in our laps. So it's probably where it should have been to begin with, you know.
I did go over with Naomi several weeks ago when we initially did the survey in November for the general election. I had come to the board, it's not in any minutes, we talked about it, we looked on YouTube, because Naomi remembers, Jan remembers, Greg was here, and I recanted the results of the issue from that survey, but just to clarify it, I don't have the numbers. Horace Lake has a problem with a resort and Tannerite explosion shooting. That's their big issue. It's a huge issue over there. The lake, Daniels Lake, is apparently experiencing some shooting problems. The majority of people did not have a problem with it, but it seems to be the Horace Lake, the Daniels Lake, and a few in town, but that seems to be the biggest problem. There were people that had a problem with birds, cows, chickens, cars, guns, trucks, motorcycles, and parties. That was about 20 people, so that's where we're at. Thank you.
Maybe we can go back to Naomi's comment about the minutes, because I'm just, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we're still in public comment,
Okay.
right?
Go ahead.
You said you don't need minutes if you are not appointed
Or
or
authorized by the town.
So what's the authorized part? Just so to make sure that everybody is clear that town authorization doesn't mean something to one person and not to.
I'd have to ask her, because it just says that, Brent. It says if the volunteer committee was not appointed or otherwise authorized by the town, there's no violation of 91A.
Because how
So I
can you
don't-
have a subcommittee if it wasn't somehow authorized by the board? So I would just be cautious of rolling with that and thinking everything's good, because it will come back.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if she meant authorized by town meeting. I don't know what she meant by the town.
So you might want to
And I can ask that, sure.
clarify
Yeah.
that.
Are you saying that it wasn't an advisory committee?
Saying that it was a volunteer committee.
Yeah.
I didn't call it advisory. I don't even know what it had for a name. We talked about DPW garage, but yeah, it had several different names throughout the course of things.
Betty?
Will you excuse me if I don't try to come up?
Okay.
But isn't, as I'm listening to what's going on, it seems to me that these committees have been what I've always known as an ad hoc committee, not necessarily, you use the word a volunteer committee. And it's my understanding that that's ad hoc.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to be passed.
We have. It was actually an ad hoc committee that created what became our high school for many years over there.
Oh, tell me about that.
Yeah.
Except there were members of the board there. representing the board, so I guess
Well, they could be, they could be
allows
residents too.
the- What?
They could be as a resident
But they
too.
weren't there as residents, come on, that's skirting
Originally,
it.
yeah, Keith was supposed to be the representative, and then Tom took his place.
But Jack was on it before he was selectman, I believe.
Yeah, so I was.
So he was a resident.
No, it's Tom.
Yeah, I was the only one. I was there to give input because I thought that there should be, you know, somebody who could.
That's my point, there's not a bright line.
Yeah,
Right.
it is
Sure.
gray. It is a gray line.
I always learned that at the selectmen, it's supposed to be a town meeting, you know, a town-approved meeting, or there should be minutes, because it's something to do with the town, and it's a selectman that's appointed to it, whether or not that's true, but that's what I was taught, so.
Mhm.
Can I speak for just a second? I just think that if you're gonna have these meetings and you're gonna, or committees, and I think that you have a committee that's been pulled together and you're looking at a $1.36 million budget, you better have minutes, and it better be covered by the town. I think that's a big project, and just to say it's a bunch of people that said, oh, I'll help out, I'll do this, I think you really need a committee. And I think the other thing, when you ask for volunteers, there are a lot of people that end up on these committees that really don't have any background, and say in this case with building.
Mhm.
And so they just put their opinion in, but it's not always an opinion that really carries through to anything because they don't have the background to put it forward. So I don't know how much it buys us to have committees with people that don't have, say in this case, really any building experience.
What we need to do is back up about 10 years, when we had a building committee.
I was on that.
Appointed by the board, you
Yeah.
were on it.
Mhm.
Don Burke was a very
Yeah.
instrumental person in having a lot of things done. Chip set in on that, and it's just, as that group of George Millett had a lot of input in that. But as the time went by and we lost members, all of a sudden we couldn't get it, and then the board decided, well, maybe we ought to make it case-specific, because we couldn't keep this standing committee, the membership on it. So, you know, we went to case-specific, and then that didn't work, and so we haven't had a building committee, and I think that that's what we need again, is to really look into that. Can we get people with building experience who are willing to sit in on a committee? Not, it doesn't necessarily have to have everybody with building experience, but certainly enough there so that you make intelligent decisions. And that did work well. That the windows in this building were decided on by that. The air conditioning in this building was decided on by that committee, and a number of different projects beyond that. So, anyways.
Candidates, Mike, that's the one thing I suggested.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Have that building committee held.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a good committee. I mean, we did tons of research for the stone building, and that's how we got a good roofer. I mean, was to do a lot of legwork to get that. And I mean, that's what people, you gotta have. You gotta have some background, then you gotta be able to have the knowledge to go forward and search this stuff out, and have the right people come in. So we get the jobs done right.
For the next meeting, could we put on the agenda to revisit those two committees so that we make a decision and have it on record of the firing range committee and the noise committee? Because this group has decided to not move on with that, but are we as a board gonna say, we're not going anywhere with the noise ordinance? Are we as a board gonna say we're gonna do this or do that on the firing range? So if either of them are gonna continue, we grab hold and run with it, or if they're not, then let's move on from them.
Yep.
So if Naomi, you could make a note for that for the next meeting. Okay.
Any more public
Any other
comment?
business?
Public comment.
You have any more public comment?
Oh, you have more public comment? Do you? I thought we'd move
I got
beyond that.
enough no's on mine.
No.
I'm gonna go home.
Don't think too bad. We all want to go home. Okay. Other business, anyone?
I'd like to bring up the possibility next meeting of appointing a building committee, or at least talking about it or getting it going.
on as a discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is slowing a lot of things down, this whole thing with the doors, who's going to do the specs for it?
Right.
I gave you a list, but it's not a sacred list, it's just things that have to be done. And you go back to that whole town hall list, I mean, it's sitting on it for 2 years.
At least.
Okay, there's no other business?
I just wanted to just let you, for correspondence, talking about roads. I just wanted to, just FYI, I got 3 letters from Continental Paving to do with District 5 resurfacing. They're gonna start today evidently, weather permitting. They're going to do, Center Road for 0.9 miles. They're going to do they're gonna do some spot paving for 1 mile on Route 77, working from 114 easterly to Pine Hill. And then they're going to also do 1 mile of Route 77 with 3/4 shim from 114 to Pine Hill. So just thought I'd let you know for FYI, and I think if you haven't gone that way and seen them out there, but I just got this, so for correspondence.
I have a lot of their pavement on my lawn. You
Cool.
Take it back.
Were they
Recycle it.
grinding?
No, it's every year the plow goes by and
Yeah.
it
Scrapes it up.
digs up
Oh,
the
yeah.
pavement in the same spot. It all ends up like that. Break it all out and hopefully they pick it up before they pave over.
When Colpex was.
I have one. Hate to ask you, but I have to go into non-public, I believe, under C, reputation?
Yes, see.
C.
Okay, move to go in non-public under C.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 That was-
I was waiting